Men, when was the last time you broke down crying? I was 32 years old and hadn't cried in probably 15 years. Not at funerals, not at weddings, not even when my dog died. I just couldn't do it anymore after my dad told me crying was for weak people when I was 12. So I learned to push everything down deep and just deal with it. My wife Angela used to get frustrated because I never showed emotion about anything. Happy, sad, angry, it all looked the same on my face. Just blank. She'd try to get me to open up during arguments, but I'd just sit there stone-faced until she gave up. I thought I was being strong, being a man, handling my problems without falling apart. Then last March, my 6-year-old son David came home from school crying. Some kids had been making fun of him at recess because he was scared to go down the big slide. They called him a baby and said real boys aren't afraid of anything. David was sobbing so hard he could barely talk. He kept saying he was sorry for being scared, sorry for crying, sorry for being weak, and I heard my dad's voice coming out of my own mouth without even thinking. Stop crying, buddy, you're fine. Big boys don't cry over silly stuff like this. The second those words left my lips, I wanted to take them back. David's face crumpled even more. He wiped his tears with his sleeve and whispered, "Okay, daddy," then ran upstairs to his room. Angela was standing in the kitchen doorway and the look she gave me made my stomach drop. That night, she told me I was turning into my father. The same man who told me emotions were weakness. The same man who never once told me he was proud of me or that he loved me. The same man who couldn't hug his own son without making it awkward and stiff. I tried to defend myself, saying I was just teaching David to be tough. Angela shook her head and said, "No, you're teaching him to be empty." That hit different. I went upstairs and knocked on David's door. He was sitting on his bed holding his stuffed elephant, the one he'd had since he was a baby. I sat down next to him and asked if we could talk. David nodded but wouldn't look at me. I told him I was wrong for saying what I said, that being scared is normal and crying doesn't make you weak. But I could tell he didn't believe me because I was saying it with that same blank expression I always had. So I did something I hadn't done in 20 years. I told him the truth about my own childhood, how my dad used to yell at me for crying, how I learned to hide every feeling I had because showing emotion meant getting called weak or soft, how I spent my entire adult life pretending nothing bothered me, and how lonely that actually felt. David finally looked up at me and asked, "Do you ever get scared, Daddy?" And something broke inside my chest. "Yeah, buddy, I get scared all the time. I just forgot how to show it." Then David asked the question that completely destroyed me. "If you're sad, can you cry? Or did you forget how to do that too?" I opened my mouth to answer and nothing came out. I tried to say something, anything, but my throat was closing up, and then it just happened. 20 years of pushed down emotions hit me all at once. I started crying right there on my son's bed. Not quiet tears, full-on sobbing like I was 6 years old again. David looked terrified at first, probably because he'd never seen me show any emotion, but then he wrapped his little arms around my neck and said, "It's okay, Daddy, I got you." We sat there for almost 30 minutes, him patting my back while I cried into his shoulder. All the things I never let myself feel just poured out. Every time my dad made me feel small, every funeral I attended with dry eyes, every moment I should have been present but wasn't because I was too busy pretending to be strong. When I finally stopped, David pulled back and looked at me with his big brown eyes. He said, "I don't think you're weak, Daddy. I think you're brave now." That made me start crying all over again. Angela found us like that, both of us red-eyed and exhausted on his race car bed. She didn't say anything, just sat down and joined the hug. The next day, I called my therapist that Angela had been begging me to see for 2 years. Started actually dealing with all the stuff I'd been ignoring my whole life. David still gets scared sometimes, and now when he cries, I cry with him. We're learning together that feeling things doesn't make you weak, it just makes you human.